Why do some people douse their cheese with champagne and then set it on fire? What are cheese stink questers? Can a wedge of cheese teach you more about yourself than years of therapy? Well, tonight you're going to get those stories and insider tips and more. If you're watching this video on the replay, please get into the comments and type the word replay. I want to know where you're logging in from. And similarly, if you're here on the live stream, get into the comments. What's in your glass? What's the weather like? I want to hear from you. I'm Natalie McLean, and I teach online food and wine pairing classes, and you've just joined one of the most passionate groups of wine and food lovers who gather every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern to talk to the most interesting people in the world of food and drink. Now, I'm live streaming this video for the first time on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, but it's based on a recorded conversation I had with our wonderful guest, whom I'll introduce momentarily. It's for my podcast, Unreserved Wine Talk. I'll be jumping into the comments, though, as we watch this live stream together, so get in there and let us know what stories are you enjoying, what questions do you still have. I really do want to hear from you. And before I introduce our guest, just let me say that 3 of you are going to win a copy of his terrific book, The Cheese Cure. All you have to do is email me and let me know that you'd like to win, and I'll choose 3 people randomly from those who contact me. Back to our guest. Michael Finnerty is a cheesemonger, journalist, and author based in London, England, and Montreal. After almost 30 years of a successful career with the CBC, BBC, and The Guardian, he found joy and a new life selling cheese at London's iconic Borough Market. Michael also has a weekly column on Penelope on Radio Canada, works part-time at Global Montreal, but for most of the year you can find him slinging cheese with the other mongers. His critically acclaimed book, The Cheese Cure, is his first book, and he joins us now from his home in Montreal. Welcome, Michael. We're so glad to have you here with us.
Hi, Natalie. It's great to be with you, and thanks very much for inviting me.
Oh, my pleasure. So before we dive into your book, let's start with some of your more memorable wine and cheese moments. Maybe tell us about the tasting you did with the UK author and TV personality, Ollie Smith.
Yeah, Ollie Smith, who is a big booster of the book, is also represented by my agent in the UK. And so she thought it would be a great idea if we did an event together where we invited people to taste through some cheeses paired with some wines. So I chose the cheeses and he chose the wines to go with them.
Oh, great.
And yeah, it was fantastic. And he's a performer. It was a terrific night. People had a great time. It was in an old bookshop on Piccadilly in London. And for sheep cheese that I had chosen, which is called Osso Errati, which may be one of the, if not the oldest, one of the oldest cheeses made in Europe. He chose a Chardonnay called Neudorf Home Block Chardonnay.
From New Zealand?
From New Zealand, yeah, from New Zealand. I would say, so look, up front I'm going to say, I bow down to all those of you wine experts and drinkers. I am certainly not as well informed as probably most of you on wines, but for me, I had tasted a medium-bodied wine with some nice minerality that also had some savory notes and some citrusy notes and maybe a little bit of peach. It was a nice, as I said, a little bit of acidity, but not too round. And what happened was when you paired it up with the Osso Errati, which is quite a higher fat cheese because sheep's milk has a higher fat content and can be quite sweet, sort of butterscotchy, biscuity. The two of them paired together just lifted. One lifted the other, and it wasn't just me who thought so. People in the audience were really impressed. My agent was like, "I can't believe how delicious this is," and how one. It was like just that perfect example of how when you hit a pairing right, when you're spot on, the wine is improved and the cheese is improved. Both are lifted.
Yes, new cloud of sensuality. They kind of meet together, and neither one could really do it for you as much as the combination.
Absolutely, and when you get it right, it tends to be a surprise, even though you know it can happen.
Right.
And I always think it's one of those ephemeral things that this will never happen again. I mean, yeah, you'll have good pairings again, but you'll never get quite this pairing because on one hand, the wine probably won't be exactly the same the next time you have it, and definitely the cheese won't be.
That's true. And
So
had you
enjoy
coordinated
it.
in advance? Yes, absolutely. Sees life in all its possible combinations. But had you coordinated with Ollie on? Did you know which wine he was bringing? Did he know what cheese you were selecting?
He knew what cheeses I was selecting, and then
Okay.
he went for the pairings.
Okay.
Probably that's the best way to do it because
Sure.
because I think he's smarter than I am.
Well, I always start with the wine first because I'm an earrings first kind of woman, and then the outfit can follow. But
Nice.
it's all about priorities, no matter where you're at. Now, you also had a staff pairing tasting evening where you had a red wine, and you were enjoying it until you paired it with Camembert. What happened?
So what happened was, this was a staff tasting, and we were tasting with the representative of the company that sells a lot of our wines, and to set ourselves apart from other wine merchants on the high street where our shop is based, but also in Borough Market, we go for a selection of organic and biodynamic and natural wines, so as to have a thing. So we were tasting a red. It was, I can't remember the name of the red. It was one of those cheeky names that you get from natural wines.
Sure.
And it was bright and fruity. And then we had some Camembert. And Camembert is a big cheese. And it's
Yeah.
a hard cheese to pair.
It's really flavorful. Like I because I don't know anything next to you when it comes to cheeses, I always think of Camembert, Brie. I always think, oh, they're all creamy and soft. But Camembert is really quite flavorful and pungent of the soft cheeses.
For me, it's more pungent than Brie. For me,
yes.
it has a real garlicky side to it. It's always going to depend on where it is on its little journey in life,
Right.
which is much shorter, obviously, than a bottle of wines. But when you get a Camembert that starts to get riper, it is going to have quite a punch and quite a garlicky taste. And what happened is that we were tasting the wine there after we tasted the cheese, and something just started to be. It didn't taste the same.
Okay.
And I guess kind of the same but negative way of what I just said about the Osso Errati and the Chardonnay.
Right.
With this natural red and Camembert, both started to taste not very nice, to be honest. And
Right.
she said, okay, wow, that has made the wine go mouse. And I hadn't heard the term before. My wine knowledge, as I've said, is not as advanced. And apparently mouse is more of a recent taste flaw and more associated with natural wines, organic wines, biodynamic wines. And it gives you a taste of kind of a guinea pig cage or a wet tortilla chip. Yeah, not so nice. Okay, we can all agree.
Those
That's
are
not
not
what we're looking
descriptors
for.
we want in wine.
And we all came to the conclusion, and I'd be interested to know what your folks think about this, but we all came to the conclusion that Camembert and wine maybe not the best combination, and maybe what's best with Camembert is like an ale or a slightly bitter cider, so that you don't have, it's something is rubbing it the wrong way in
Right.
terms of the grapes and the wine.
Yeah, and I would say especially a fruity young wine, natural wine that has sometimes foxy or really funky flavors might just be a really bad match. I'm almost thinking for creamy, maybe it's too stereotypical, but creamy I would veer toward bright white acidic wines that cut through the richness at least.
Absolutely. Bubbles
yeah.
too.
Bubbles,
one
yes.
One of the classic combinations with Brie is champagne. if
Oh,
you can.
yeah. That would be great.
Because the bubbles and the acidity cut through the creaminess, yeah.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So you just mentioned something interesting. Cheese has a shorter ageability or trajectory than wine. So how I know it'll vary widely depending on the cheese, and of course fresh cheeses like goat cheese or whatever you want to serve fresh and young, just like some wines like Beaujolais. But how old can the oldest or longest lived cheeses go for? What is their life?
So you'll get clearly a Camembert is not a cheese that you will ever eat aged. When we talk about an aged Camembert or a mature Camembert, it's not going to be more than a few months maximum.
Okay.
But if you have an Alpine cheese, then you're going to start to get into some significant aging. We tend to sell the Alpine cow's milk cheeses around 18 to 24 months. We think that's a really nice age where you get a combination of the kind of moisture you like in the paste versus as cheese starts to age, people think that it develops salt crystals. Those are actually tyrosine crystals, and they give it a bit of a crunch.
What are they? Are they like calcium, or what are they?
So
or
what
salts?
tyrosine? It's what happens with the fats in the milk as the cheese ages, is they break down into an amino acid and form these tyrosine crystals. So it's not salt.
Okay.
It actually is supposed to give you a dopamine hit, amongst other things. Yeah, which I guess, yeah, it matches up with a slightly addictive quality that you get in good wines too.
Right.
Cheese is, hard to stop eating. When it's good, it's good.
Yes.
So then you can get a cheese that will be 24 months. We sell Comtés as well up to 36 months. You'll get Parmigianos that are even older than that. Once you start getting past sort of 3 years, 4 years, it's going to be quite... some cheddars, by the way, are going to be that old as well, but they're going to tense up. They'll lose their moisture, and they'll be more... there'll be less give in the mouth, that's for sure. But you might also get some really unexpected flavors. The flavor definitely changes over time.
Okay.
That's for
Into
sure.
more negative flavors as it gets too old?
It's a balance. Like for instance, with Comté, if you're tasting an 18 to 24 month old Comté, you're going to get some of those nice sweet nutty notes. And then as you get into 36 month Comté, it starts to have, for me anyway, a real kind of rum and raisin vibe. I don't know quite why that's happening. I mean, there are just endless mysteries with cheese. Why is a cheese doing a certain thing? You can always give it a stab. You can try to figure out why it's doing it, but it's often just a marvelous mystery.
Yes, and a delicious one. So sometimes it doesn't need to be picked apart. But that's fascinating, because there's trajectories, of course, for wine as well. And there's some similarities in that the fruit goes from fresh to more ripened to stewy to prune to,
Right.
that kind of
Exactly.
trajectory. Yeah. Huh. So as we know, wine and cheese both start as natural liquids before they're fermented. They're aged into a dizzying range of styles and flavors. Beyond those obvious parallels, what else do you think wine and cheese share that might surprise us?
A lot of things, to be fair. I think that, first of all, if people didn't realize, cheeses have appellations as well, appellation,
Right.
which are granted based on applications that are made to a central authority, that come with what the French call a cahier des charges, so kind of a manual on how to make the cheese. The first one having been Roquefort in 1925. Now there's loads of appellation, and they're not just French cheeses, of course. So things like Parmigiano are appellations, as are raclette in Switzerland.
So does that mean only that appellation can use that name? Like Parmigiano should only be from that place? There shouldn't be a California Parmigiano, so to speak?
Exactly. You'll get some cheeses that, like for instance, Brie. Those are going to be loads of Bries, but there's only one Brie de Meaux, which is the appellation. So, and same with cheddar, because cheddar is so widespread that by the time they started coming up with the appellations, there was no, by the way, appellation in English, designated origin.
Origin, contrôlé.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah.
This is it. Yeah. So when they were starting to think about what to do with, for instance, cheddar, it was just decided there was no way. Too many people were making it. You couldn't suddenly say only this type of cheese is cheddar.
It's the old tissue Kleenex dilemma. They didn't
Right.
protect it soon enough. Yes.
Exactly. So there's that with wine and cheese. There's also the question of terroir, which very much affects a cheese, where it comes from. It's also included in the appellation. So, for instance, Roquefort will only be from sheep, milk from sheep who are raised in this one part of the Aveyron in France. And I guess another similarity that maybe people don't think about as much is that milk has different varieties in the same way that grapes have different varieties, because they come from different cows.
Right.
So certain cheeses, I'm thinking of Beaufort, where the milk has to be one of Montbéliard is one of the milks. That's a type of cow, a variety of cow.
Sure.
So that's stipulated in the cahier des charges of how that cheese is made, that the milk must come from this cow, which is eating in a certain place. So the milk has the flavors of that place, that terroir, and what grows there. And different cows supply different types of milk.
Right.
Some has higher fat, some has different taste. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I never thought about the differences of different breeds of cattle. Like I know sheep and goat and cow all produce very different cheeses, but you're right, different types, different breeds of cattle, and of course what they're feeding on, whether that meadow has a lot of flowers or types of grasses or whatever, is also part of the terroir of the cheese.
The cheeses will also have a category called alpage. Alpage you see the word alp in alpage. It means that the cows or whatever animal they're making cheese from are grazing at higher elevations. And when you're grazing at higher elevations, obviously the different plants and grasses that are there, there's a greater variety. There's different things that than you would see down in the valley, and so you'll get a different quality of milk and different tastes.
Again, another parallel, because we talk about high altitude wines. Like when they're planted higher, they get a different kind of disposition to the sun. Wow, I didn't know that. And
I think
then
there are so many things that match up.
Right.
And there's this world of knowledge about cheese, which I believe is the case with wine, that I almost feel that I could never finish learning about cheese.
Yes, exactly the way I feel about wine. I always feel like a beginner, but still interested.
Absolutely.
And are there any surprising differences that might not occur to us?
I mean, I suppose one of the big differences is that cheese is high protein. It's not really surprising, is it? I don't know. It's a foodstuff, and so it will nourish you. You can live.
So there is real nutrition. Yes.
Absolutely, and good nutrition, and the kind of, it's good for your bones. It's got high protein, and I think possibly the other surprising difference with cheese is how broad the range of acceptable tastes is, which I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that's the case with wine. There are going to be some tastes in wine that you're going to think, that is not nice to drink. Thank you very much.
Right.
And no, thank you. But if you think of cheese, there are some cheeses that taste farmy, like Barney.
Yes. Yeah.
There are cheeses
Euphemistically, yes.
right? Pooey, some people will say pooey. And there are some that taste like those parts of your body that are maybe not as carefully washed as they maybe should be, and that's because they share the same bacteria, and so I think that is quite an important difference in that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. We can talk about that more, about why people are drawn to those tastes, but for me that's quite a big difference between wine and cheese, in that you wouldn't want your wine to taste like that.
No, I think, yeah, it's the old British saying up to a point. But so we will have like wines, say in Burgundy, that are affected by Brettanomyces or Brett, which can get that barnyard smell. But I think if the wine was overtaken by that barnyard smell, we would say it's faulted. Just like we would say, like we have the, the flavor and aroma wheels, as I'm sure you do for cheese, but I think that we slip into the faulted category far more easily than it sounds like than cheese. Like when it comes to wet
true.
dog and, tortilla chips, wet tortilla chips I can't get out of my head, but with a side of guinea pig. But yeah, so that's great. I love those. The similarities and differences are really illuminating. Can we also talk about the difference between a cheesemonger and an affineur, if I'm saying it correctly? A refiner, yes. Is it correct? It's like the relationship between a high-end wine merchant and a cellar master. One's kind of raising or sculpting the product. The other is really focused on selling it?
I think that's mostly it. I love the word affineur, by the way, and the closest translation that exists in English is maturer, which is a lot of R's. But it's not at all the same translation because it's actually quite a simple French word to understand, whether you know French or not, because it comes from the word fine, which is fine. So and the verb affiner. So if you're in the as a verb making something finer.
Right.
So that's what it is, an affineur. So you're making this cheese taste better. Basically, you're bringing it up to its potential.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas a maturer, you're, maturing it, which is not quite the same. It doesn't have that same idea of bringing it up. So a cheesemonger is meant to do, I think, a little bit of the affineur's job.
Okay.
And so we have direct contact with the cheeses. At point of sale, so we're at point of sale, I would say. Although some of my colleagues are more on the affineur side, if they're back in the caves, we have caves, so they would maybe have more of that side to the job to them, but then they might call themselves an affineur, or you might want to call them that. Cheesemonger is definitely one of those great British words, and there's a fishmonger, there are mongers. I mean, it has that sense of selling them, of cutting them, of preparing them, of making them look their best. So it's a bit of one and a bit of the other. And certainly one of the big jobs, even at the bar market stall, is to ensure that the cheeses are at their very best. And to think every morning as you take them out, get them up from their beds in the morning and take them out to be displayed, is to think, what can I do to make you better today?
Right. I love that. So maybe we can finally now move on to your book. Well, tell us in a nutshell what the cheese cure is about. It's your story, but it's got cheese in it. It's got all kinds of really delicious information. So how would you describe it? You've got the book there, I see.
This is the
There
UK
you go.
edition.
The
It's
UK.
pretty. This is the Canadian and American edition.
There you go.
The book is about my later in life pivot from a career in journalism, which I loved, and instead of going into retirement, although I'm still a bit young to go into retirement, although I mind, I decided to go into cheese. It sort of chose me while I was on a sabbatical. So the book is about how I took a break from doing my job as an early morning radio show presenter, a radio show host on the CBC in Canada. Before that, I had worked for the BBC and the Guardian, and it was a lot. The job, after several decades of doing it, and it had sort of eaten my life, that job, and I felt that I needed a change, a break. It started off as a sabbatical. I asked my bosses if I could have 6 months off unpaid, and I got them. And off I went to London, where I did used to live. I used to work in London for the BBC and the Guardian. And I decided I couldn't just hang out for 6 months. I had to do something. I'm that kind of person, too, that likes to be doing something. And I love Borough Market, have always loved Borough Market. they were advertising for a cheesemonger, I thought, what is a cheesemonger? So I applied for the job and got it, and the book is that story. So it tells the story of me having taken that journey, and it is also very cheesy. So throughout the entire book, we spend a lot of time with the cheeses and a lot of time with the cheesemongers. It's meant to be uplifting.
Excellent.
It's meant to be fun.
It is. It is. It's beautifully written. And, I mean, there's your story, which is terrific. A lot of people will relate to that, a midlife shift or pivot. But also, if you want to learn about cheese, all these little cheesy goodness bits of those little crystals are little nuggets are woven in between. So it's terrific. I highly recommend it. What is the most surprising insight that you discovered while writing the book?
I think that the book is on one hand this personal journey. So there were a lot of surprising insights to me when I discovered that my life wasn't exactly where I wanted it to be at that point. And I think these things are things that sometimes we don't grasp in the day-to-day, because we have things to do, we have families, we have obligations, the wheel keeps turning, weeks turn into months, turn into years, and how often do we really take stock? That's a big theme in the book. And so a big insight to me was that we take stock of wine, we take stock of cheese on a regular basis. We taste it. In wine, you will taste it from the barrel. You'll also taste it if you're selling it. In cheese, we'll stick a cheese iron into the cheese and pull out a cylinder and taste it. But how often do we really do that in our own lives? If we're to extend the metaphor, do we sit down and say, well, how am I tasting right now? Am I tasting delicious, or am I a little bit sour? A little bit bitter, a little bit bland.
Too long in the cave.
Too long in the cave. Too long cut from the wheel. All that sort of thing. So I would say on the personal end, there's that. And then on the cheese end, my goodness, the insights,
it's great.
which were all a result of the book. But also later on when I was working on, so each chapter has a little bit about a specific cheese at the end of it, and so I did a lot of research, and I should have known, but the history of cheese to me is fascinating, and how long it goes back, and the role that it played. And I'll give you for instance.
Yes.
There's a blue cheese called Fourme d'Ambert, which I found a quote for, which came from a general talking about an army and how an army was more effective if they had a piece of Fourme d'Ambert in their satchel.
That's great. I love it. Yeah. Again, the parallels with wine, but it's a great way to structure the book and to learn more about cheese. And what was the most difficult part about writing the book? What was the greatest challenge?
One of the greatest challenges was finding the time, because I was working and I didn't quit my broadcasting job either. Writing takes time. It takes focus. You have to have the right environment. I think you have to be patient with yourself. Writing takes a while. I didn't realize any of this. So that was a bit of a surprise. And I suppose the other big challenge was, having not written anything before, I was a neophyte to the whole idea of narrative structure. Even though I've spent my whole life telling stories in journalism, I think intuitively knew how to tell a story. But I had a great session in a week. There was a writing foundation that allows you to go into the English countryside for a week with a bunch of people who have a manuscript that they're kind of working on, and we all sat around and read each other's stuff, and it was so eye-opening, and it really got me over a hurdle of wondering what I would do with all these notes that I'd made.
Oh, that's great. Now, going back to your journalism career, you were in New York immediately after 9/11 and covered elections in Russia. Having witnessed, these major world events, what made serving cheese at Borough Market feel significant to you?
It's a good question, because I think that people are. I mean, there are people. I have people in my orbit who are thinking, "Why did you do this?" And why is this the next act in your career? And I suppose because those events are big events, and having been in Manhattan in the days after 9/11, that was that will stay with me forever, and that was important work. But if we really focus on what makes the world a better place, cheese makes the world a better place. It does make the world a better place. It feeds you, it delights you, and when you sell it, you delight others.
Yes.
And I have taken a lot of enjoyment, and my own personal delight from helping people discover cheese. And my interactions at the cheese stall compared to my interactions in the journalism world are 98% positive. Mm-hmm. Whereas as a journalist, you are sort of a monger of misery a lot of the time. I mean, there is such a thing as good news, of course, and things that are making a positive impact in the world. But let's face it, a lot of the time we're talking about war. Certainly right now, we're talking about war. We're talking about difficulties and how to overcome them, political difficulties in business, in tech, whatever. And cheese is about making you happy, and making your taste buds surprised and explode, and you sort of, if you have a great cheese, you feel like you're almost elevating, and I think the same is true of wine, and so that's a fun business to be in, and that gave me a lot of joy.
Absolutely. I so resonate with you, because I used to feel guilty I wasn't doing missionary work somewhere, and I thought, oh, I'm helping the helpless rich find their next Bordeaux. But I mean, we all work hard in whatever it is we do, but it comes down to those moments when we start to reconnect with others, with ourselves, with pleasure, and just I don't know what life's about otherwise.
Around a glass of wine, around a cheese board, where we're all experiencing something that is positive, that is just making us happy. And I mean, if there aren't these sorts of moments in life, what's it about?
Yeah, exactly. And now you also described the toll of morning radio, which you alluded to, waking up at 3 a.m., eating lunch at 8:30 in the morning, and then having to go from extrovert to introvert by mid-morning, or the collapse back into introvert. What kind of fatigue eating did you do in those days before you entered the wonderful world of cheese?
It was not a thing I am proud of. Let's say to start, and it took me a while to kind of get on top of it. But yeah, when you are tired, when you are exhausted, if you are watching this or listening to this, and you have the type of job where you are working night shifts or difficult hours, you'll know that you get this sense of being worn down and fatigued. People who have a new child, I'm sure, feel the same as well, and you're looking for compensation, and the compensation is what was for me in the fridge. So I would open up the fridge and I would just like, what is there? And instead of having one of a certain thing, I should probably finish this package off.
Why not?
Otherwise, it will go bad.
That's right. Yes.
So
exactly.
And one thing leads to the other. I think what I wasn't doing in those not so great years, as I wasn't clearly preparing something to eat. I was sort of just.
What was there? Yeah. The body's
what was there? What's going to make me feel better?
Yeah, exactly. Now, you grew up in Canada with industrial produced blocks of bright orange cheese wrapped in heavy plastic, individually wrapped slices for hamburgers and cheese whiz, as you say. How does that childhood memory inform how you interact with cheese skeptics today?
So, I mean, coming from my experience growing up, so I was born in the late 60s. Gen X, the cheeses that we had available to us where I grew up, which was mostly in London, Ontario, were those kinds of cheeses. So I am not in a position to look down on anybody's cheese choices, which I think is important when you're mongering, when you're trying to suggest what a person might enjoy, or when you have a skeptic in front of you who is looking at these sort of very strange moldy cheeses, thinking, "What's that?" And so I guess I can put myself in their shoes quite easily, and I also feel that having made that journey myself, I get a lot of enjoyment out of seeing other people start off on that journey, because I know that they too will end up in a surprising and a very cool place, which is a place of like discovery of tastes you didn't know existed and you didn't know you enjoyed.
Sure. Yep. Resonating again with your answer. Now, Borough Market is London's most renowned food market, located near London Bridge. Operating for more than 1,000 years, it's spread out over 4.5 acres or 200,000 square feet. I love this, you describe Borough Market at dawn as a stage without the lights or actors, the decor in shadows, with something slightly sinister about it. Can you remember that first morning when you arrived, say before sunrise at Borough Market, what it was like?
The market is sometimes a spooky place, and I think one of the things that really strikes me about the market is how radically different it is through the course of the day. In the middle of the night, if you're walking around Borough Market, there is something slightly fabulous and romantic about it, but also something sinister. For instance, if you saw the latest Bridget Jones movie, there's a scene where she is courting the younger suitor in that film, and that's all filmed at Borough Market at night. So if you want to get an idea of what it looks like at night, which is to say that it can look great, but it can also be that place where it's dark. You hear chains being unlocked and dropped to the ground, and people straining to put things in place, and forklifts going around, and yeah, it can be a tough place. So when you go in the morning, what it is that it's a blank canvas. So you're starting from that place of slightly sinister, dark, looming kind of mood that turns into and what you end up drawing with cheeses or whatever product you're selling is this cornucopia of food that is meant to appeal and delight. And so the transformation from one to the other is so extreme that you never get tired of it.
Wow. What's your favorite part of the market? Like, what do you love about being there? I mean, you love selling cheeses, but why in that place?
I'm not going to say there isn't a sense of pride, because there is a sense of pride working at Borough Market. You think, I work here, and when you see it in movies, for instance, or in photographs, you think, that's where I and my colleagues work. But the thing I like the best about it would be, and I had a feeling that this was going to be true, but I don't think I realized to what extent, but it's the sense of camaraderie with the other people who work at the market. We get along well, like really well, and we work together very well, and in some senses, I suppose we're in competition, because you want people to come to my stall, and sometimes the person who owns the Italian cheese and ham store next door, whose name is Phil, will say to me, "My, that's a hubristic display of cheese." So he will have a laugh with us and needle us, but he wants us to have customers, and we want him to have customers, and I love seeing my fellow colleagues. I will always go when I open up the stall next door to Phil's stall, and his daughter's often there, and I will always have a chat with her. We'll have a hug, we'll have a chat, we'll find out how last night was, and it feels great. I mean, in a way that, and I know all workers have a sense of camaraderie. There's also a sense of rivalry. I feel that in the food business, I don't feel that rivalry as much as I do in journalism, not by a long shot.
Ah, interesting to compare the two. Yeah.
And
Now,
there's wine merchants as well at the market.
okay.
Fantastic. I love them, and they always give me free wine. So and I give them free cheese.
They love you too, then. That's great. Now, you were given what you call the cheese talk, a discussion, a dissuasion technique delivered by Kian, I think, a fellow cheesemonger who worked at your stall called Mon Cheesemonger. I'm probably butchering the accents here.
No, it's a Mons. You can pronounce the S.
Mons.
It's a proper name.
Okay.
It's
Mons.
named after a person.
Oh, okay.
A family, actually. Yeah.
All right. So what key points did he use to try to dissuade you from taking this job?
So the point of the talk is that people can, and this, no matter how well you do the talk, it doesn't always work. And I think actually Kian was right. Kian is a tough. He was hard to warm to. He was one of those people, and I'm sure everybody has these people in their life where when you first met them, you thought, is this person going to like me? Am I going to like this person? Is this a person that has a good place in my life? And it's true that he, through the, I don't want to kind of give spoilers to the book, but our relationship does grow and we end up living through a lot of stuff together. But yeah, Kian was trying to put me off. And that's what the talk is doing. It's trying to put you off doing the job if what it is that you want to do is just sell cheese and have a laugh with the customers and eat cheese, right?
Right.
Because we've been talking about all the nice things about cheese, but there's a lot of not nice things about cheese, and they're messy and sticky and stinky, and we have to make sure that people are always getting that there's a healthy environment, that we're respecting the food handling rules. All of that stuff requires constant cleaning. Cheeses are heavy. They need to be displayed properly. That means they need to be cut well. They need, for instance, these big Alpine wheels are 40 kilograms, which is 90 pounds. Or
Wow.
they're heavy. And closing down the stall after you've spent the entire day on your feet is a lot of work. You're sweeping things, you're scrubbing things, you're bleaching things. All the cheeses need all sorts of crazy special care because they're really fussy. They have what I like to call in the book riders. You know how like Mariah Carey wants like a nice plant in their room. The cheeses want to be wrapped in paper or wrapped in plastic or in a bed of straw. They all have a thing that if you don't respect with them, that they're just going to react badly and they will get you the next day and you'll taste them and they'll be like, not very nice. So all of that is a lot of work. And what Kian was trying to do was to say, if you're not up to it, then you shouldn't take the job because don't waste our time, sort of thing. Sure. And it still happens. I'm telling you, Natalie, there's people who've taken on the job, this year who will leave after 2 months because they didn't realize they had to spend the time scrubbing the floor.
Right.
Or in one case, like cleaning the staff toilet. Like who else is going to do it?
Yeah, exactly. Well, yours, wine, fashion, publishing, a lot of these are romance industries where people like to dabble and they think if I have, like, I like to read, I like to drink wine, I like to eat cheese, why wouldn't I want to work in this industry? But it's work. It's, like I like to say, if you want to open a winery, be sure you want to be a farmer. Like, because it's not that glamorous. It's fancied up farming or whatever. So
it's a ton of work. It's hard work and it's hard, and there's a lot of heartache involved as well because things to get them where they're fantastic and just in the right place. It's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears.
Sure. So your first task was sweeping for mouse droppings. Your manager Tom said to take this seriously. you had to get, were you on a quota system with the cheese, with the mice poops or something?
The mice poops they're important to keep track of. This is an open air market, so this is not a shop. Shops occasionally have mouse problems. Our shop does not have a mouse problem, but we also have the stall at Borough Market where we have mice, and birds and all sorts of flies and all sorts of little wildlife. Occasionally you will get a squirrel, although not as many as here. What I didn't know a lot of things, and I didn't know almost anything about mice, but they are incontinent, so they just kind of scurry around, and they will poop whenever they need to poop, basically.
Right.
They don't. It's not an appointment to poop. It's just they poop. So they're like scurrying through what I learned about our cheese stall too, because we have the pest control people come around, and I always end up chatting with them, and they say that our stall is the cleanest or one of the cleanest in the market, and that the poops are the mice transiting through our stall because all the cheeses are locked away.
Right.
And everything has to be sort of airtight and refrigerated at different degrees depending on the cheese and their riders, and so the reason why you want to know how many poops there are is you can gauge how long the mice are spending in the stall. So it does really actually matter.
Huh. Wow. Okay. Back to the more savory part of the job.
You're welcome. You asked.
The reality, I know. I walked right into that.
Sometimes you see the mice. I mean, lately you've been seeing, I call them mice, I call them all Max the mouse. Sometimes you see Max, which is surprising. I'm like, Max, what are you doing out here in the middle of the day? But then he'll scurry away. But that's I don't know why recently. Sometimes it's change of seasons.
Okay. Yeah. Now you mentioned this. You write about carroting the Comté using the cheese iron, a thin, hollow, sharp-edged metal probe that's plunged deep into the center of an 80-pound wheel, twisted to remove a small cylindrical core sample known as a plug or a carrot. And that's... Tell me why. What's happening there? They're assessing the cheese's aroma, texture, and flavor?
The whole thing, and it's done throughout the life of the cheese. So what you'll get a wheel of, let's say, Stilton, or a wheel of cheddar, or a wheel of Comté in this case, that will have because you take the sample out and you take a bit off and then you put it back in, because you can't just leave a hole in the cheese, because obviously that's not going to work out, because oxygen will be getting in, etc. So we always will see where it has been carroted in the past, and what they're trying to do as they mature it, and what we will then do as well is we're trying to grade the cheese, I suppose. When it's leaving the maturation caves, it's a very serious business. It's also a serious business for us, but what we're trying to do is figure out where it is in its life and what its flavor profile is. We will send our buyer, she will go over to the caves in Switzerland or in France, and she will go through a process of carroting the different wheels with the producers. Mm-hmm. And she's looking for certain tasting notes in the cheeses that she is choosing. And interestingly, with the Comté, which this is something I actually didn't realize until the last couple of years, as I'm always learning more about how the business goes, but there's another major Comté importer in the UK, and they have a slightly different profile of what they want the Comté to taste like, and ours has to be something that is not exactly the same, so that that when you're getting our Comté, you're getting a certain profile. And so she's looking for that. And Comté can taste really different from one to the other. I'm not talking about bad or good. It's about something like toffee. Like, does it taste? Ours tastes a bit more, I think, toffee, nutty. Or something can taste grassy. So she's trying to get it in that zone, so that predictably the Comté that you'll buy from us will taste not exactly the same, but at least sort of similar from wheel to wheel.
Sure. And there again, it reminds me of Négociant's wine agents, more in the French system, that will go around to different growers and select different barrels to raise them or the élevage or elevate them. But they're looking for certain distinct characteristics. So when that negociant's name is on the bottle, you're getting a certain style of, say, Burgundy. And they use the pipette, of course. They use that sort of big glass turkey baster to draw from the barrel, kind of the carroting of wine. Now, you mentioned that those scoring 14 or higher get the prestigious green label, Comté Extra, while those scoring 12 to 14 receive the brown label. It's only those that get the highest scores that can be exported, I believe. What do you think about the whole grading system for cheese and wine? Do you think it's of service, or is it problematic in any way?
No, I think it is of service, very much so. I don't think what they're trying to do by grading the Comté is to stop certain flavors from coming through. I think they're trying to stop flaws from getting through. And the cheeses that fall below the standard for the Comté appellation are still used. It's just that the uses that you'll make of them will be more for instance, an industrial food production, cooking, because Comté is a cheese that you often use to mix into a sauce or a recipe. And when they're a lower grade, then maybe they're better for that. We will sometimes, when we have a piece of Comté that has been too long cut from the wheel, we'll sell it at a discount as a cooking cheese, which still has its appeal. And one of the parts of the appeal will be the price being a bit lower, and it'll be delicious in a recipe. Absolutely. So I think, grading it's good for us to. So they want to make sure there's a level of humidity that's right, that it's that feels right in the mouth, that it's not too acidic. A whole bunch of things that they'll be looking for in order to grade it, to make sure that it's of a standard. And then from there, from there, it's not good. It doesn't mean you're not still going to get variations, or even a Comté that you don't like, because it's such a personal thing. And there are, frankly, Comtés that I often get. I always say to people, I'm a big booster of Canadian cheeses, or cheeses that are made locally, and there's a lot of great ones.
What are some of your favorite, by the way?
There are in our part of the world. There's a cheese called La Bête à Séguin, which I love, which is a sort of brie, but it's a little bit punchier, a little bit sort of fuller tasting. It's made by a cooperative on Île aux Grues. There's a washed rind cheese called Le Mérique, which is a really good price, and it's got lots of great funky notes to it. There's a load. There's a Guns Hill in Ontario, which is terrific. They do a bunch of fantastic cheeses. Stone Town, north of London, Ontario, they have some fantastic alpine cheeses. And what I guess I'm saying is that the wild card when you're here in North America and you're importing cheese is that you don't know the voyage that cheese is taken, as well as, for instance, we would over there. I suppose that's true there as well. But, I think once you cut a wedge of cheese from the wheel, you are instantly shortening its lifespan, because it's now been taken away from the whole, and it will start to lose in flavor. It will get drier, and so sometimes you can buy a piece of Comté where in Canada, the same can be true in Europe too, but if it's not been cared for properly, it's not going to taste very nice, even though it has that green ribbon.
Okay, interesting.
And you shouldn't be afraid of saying so, is the other thing I would say. Taste it. Always taste. Especially if you're going to a cheese shop, as opposed to buying it in the supermarket or buying it at one of those big retailers, bulk retailers, where they'll sell you a big chunk of Comté. The advantage to go into the cheese shop is exactly this: is you have a relationship with the mongers, you get to talk to them, you get to taste them, you know what you're getting, and if you don't like it, then don't buy it.
Right. No, that's true. I should do that myself more often. Ask to taste first. Yes.
Yeah.
It's a great tip. Yeah.
And fun.
Yes, and fun and free. I'll just have a sampling and I'm good. In wine, there's a concept of drinking windows, the period when the bottle's at its peak. You describe a Vacherin becoming so ripe as to make you wince, and newer cheesemongers wanting to throw it out. One of the cheesemongers, Fanula, slices it up and watches people flock to them and snap up the cheese. Is knowing when the cheese is truly past its prime a skill that takes years to develop, or can you develop a good sense of it like within a month or two?
So what I would say about that is that weirdly, you sort of have a pretty good sense of when a cheese is past its prime, just innately. You'll taste a cheese. You will taste a cheese, Natalie, and say, this has been around too long. It's got a sort of ammoniated taste, or it's just too strong. I will do that too. We know. What you learn is that people don't have the same tastes as you do. Sure. And you also learn to respect that. And so I will think this cheese is past its prime. And in that instance with that Vacherin, which is a seasonal mountain cheese with a strap of spruce bark around the side that people will often put in the oven, it can be really big and it can be really funky, to the point where sometimes when I'm served it, I'm like, I don't think I want to eat this. It's not for me. And then there will be people who will eat that exact same cheese in that exact same situation and say, this is exactly what I was looking for. And you try, what I think you learn is you learn not to judge. If someone likes that cheese, that's great. For me, that is a flaw. For you, that is what you're looking for. And now we know it. So I think what we always have to do, and when a new monger will say, I think there's something that's not right with this cheese, with this Tom, for instance, you'll always say, have you tasted it? And one of the things you do as a monger, and I've actually just written a piece about this for a cheese industry magazine, is recently I got some pretty gnarly looking pieces of Stilton that had somehow been left on a shelf over the Christmas period. A lot of people buy Stilton at Christmas, and then there's all sorts of pieces left over. And I thought that they would have to be discounted or wasted. And after having given them a trim, I was doing this while I was because it was a slower morning. I was doing this at the stall while people were walking by. And I gave a taste to one of these gnarly pieces that I had then cleaned up and brushed up. And it tasted so good. Okay. Better than what I thought was the wheel that we had that day.
Wow. And
as I was tasting it, a customer was there and said, what is that you're tasting that you seem to like so much? And so I gave him a taste and he said, wow, just give me that piece right away. And I was going to mark it down. So yeah, that is a valuable piece of cheese. And I had, and in the case of what you mentioned in the book, is people will write off a piece of cheese because either they've made a judgment that they haven't really explored, or that they're projecting onto the cheese their own tastes. There are a lot of people who like really strong cheese. Yeah. I don't actually like it when it's that strong, but people will like it. So you just have to make sure that people know this. So what you never want to do is sell a piece of very strong cheese to someone who doesn't like strong cheese. You want to sell the strong cheese to the person who likes the strong cheese. You need to get to know the customers. You need to respect that everybody has different taste buds.
And you do talk about the stink questers, people looking for the stinkiest cheese as often some sort of coming of age ritual or freak show mentality. So what are they doing? Are they just trying to, is it like a hazing ritual? I don't know. Or are there people who just, I want to eat the stinkiest cheeses all the time?
I think it's a bit of both. And having just talked about respecting everybody, I have a slight issue with the stink questers because I think that in some cases they are just looking to be grossed out. Oh, this really tastes rank. Eat it, eat it, eat it. And they're trying to sort of like push someone to eat something that smells like, a foot that hasn't been washed for a long time. They're trying to kind of like people. There's something. It's often, let's be honest, it's often guys, it's often men who get excited by these strong smells and trying to force people to eat it. And it has happened, and it's in the book where you have a father and their son, and he's trying to get them to taste, let's say, a really ripe époisse as a sort of, if you can eat it, then you're a man sort of thing.
And the époisse, just for those who don't know, kind of smells and tastes like ammonia,
Well, if it tastes like ammonia, I would say that is a flaw.
Okay.
But then, and I think most ammonia is one of those things that I think genuinely is a flaw. But
Okay.
it will also get really sort of funky, stinky, big aggressive flavor, meaty, marmitey, and really in your face about it. But it's not always like that, by the way. Sometimes it's, when it's younger, it really can be one of my favorite cheeses, but also a cheese that I won't eat. And when it's in that stage where I won't eat it, some people think it's great. So yeah, you'll get a father trying to force it on a son to try to make a point that they need to
Get some hair on their chest.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. And so there is a bit of that, and I think it's sort of like, we're just down the road from the London Dungeon. There is a kind of like freak show thing that goes on with some of the funny cheeses.
Right.
And I'm a bit protective of them because I think I don't want people to be laughing at the cheeses either. I want them to be respecting them. But honestly, if that's what you like, then great.
Yes, you are protective. You write that you once leaned into a Munster after someone insulted it. You whispered, "Don't listen to them."
Yeah.
A lot of cheese empathy.
Yeah. Munster really does smell like bad breath or an unwashed part of your body, or body odor, or an armpit, or it really just does. I'm sorry.
Sure.
It
Facts
just does.
Facts, yes.
And that's how it smells. It doesn't. People will say it doesn't taste like that, it doesn't not taste like that, I guess.
Yeah,
it's not my favorite cheese. It tastes sort of sausagey, but that's a thing that it doesn't work for me. But people will snap it up. People love it, and cook with it, and they want that odor. But when we have, like, for instance, wheels of Munster sitting out unwrapped, you will sometimes forget that they're unwrapped, and you'll just be wondering, what is going? Someone didn't brush their teeth today, and then you're like, oh, it's because I haven't wrapped the Munster yet.
Well, you also have that word from under, from an American couple describing a langre, a pungent washed rind cow's cheese from the Champagne region. And you said from under where? What does that slang term mean?
So I had never heard it before because it was this couple's words. They invented it, but I have now published it, and maybe someday it will be in a dictionary of cheese tasting notes. I don't know. But yeah, they said from under, and they said it a couple of times, and I finally said, "Excuse me, what are you saying?" And they said from under. From plus under. So from under. And I'm from under where? And they started laughing, and they said, well, from under the covers, from under your trousers, from under... That was
from
their
those
word
parts
for...
not washed that you referred to earlier. From down there.
Basically, yeah, it's funk. So, what's going on with these cheeses is they're almost... If they have that kind of from under, to use the word. It's because they're a washed rind cheese. So this is a cheese that as it's maturing, it's usually not a very, it's not like Gruyere is and Comté are washed as well, but they're big Alpine cheeses and they don't have that from undergoing on. But in a younger soft cheese that is washed rind, like Langres, like Munster, like the one I mentioned, Limerick, which is made in Quebec. There's loads of them. People love them. They're delicious. What happens is that as you wash them with a saline solution, what it's doing with the pH is it's encouraging the development of a pair of brevibacteria, Aurantiacum and linens. And those are the exact, in the case of B. linens, that is the bacteria that grows on your feet.
Oh, wow.
So
specific, yeah.
Yeah. And the Aurantiacum, I'm probably not saying it right, will give it a sort of an orangey hue. Often these cheeses are slightly orange, slightly ochre, sometimes a little bit on the pink side. And they also have this funk, this fromunda. And that's why. But people seek it out. It once you start getting into it, it's pretty delicious. I mean, I don't like them when they're super far big fromunda, but I like them a lot. So I will like a Langres up to a point, and then I'm like, okay, that's for you, not for me.
Well, it's almost like developing a taste in wine and developing a taste for bitterness and tannins and like a Barolo or something. But why do some people douse their Langres with champagne and set it on fire? What's happening there? Why are they doing that?
There are all these, many of the cheeses are tightly associated with their regions. And so there are just a bunch of customs that then grow up with the cheeses. They become a point of pride. Like, for instance, when we in Borough Market, when French people walk by, they like stick their chests out and they name all the cheeses. They're so proud of it. So with Langres, it's a cheese that as it matures, they don't flip it like most cheeses are flipped, and so it develops a sort of divot, a decompression in the center. It looks like an orange brain. It's really wrinkly. And that's because of some of the molds on the surface and because of the bacteria on them. And so I guess people must have at some point thought, well, this divot, let's put something in this divot. And because it comes still from the Champagne region, people will pour champagne in it, but they'll also set it alight, and they'll set it alight with usually Marc de Bourgogne, so it's a marc, like a brandy, like an eau de vie, from Burgundy, and then they'll light it and it'll get its, I guess it's the same way that you might light a dessert, for instance.
Right, a flambe.
Yeah, exactly, and it's a sense of ceremony too, and I've not done it.
Huh.
Okay. Maybe I need to do it. If we ever meet, we'll do it. Yeah.
Oh yes, of course.
We'll light one, and
just for the heck of it.
You choose the wine.
Yeah, we're drinking the champagne though. We're not lighting it on fire.
Okay, I think that's a good idea.
I don't do that to champagne. Oh, I want to get to the 1924 cheese. I think you call it a narcotic cheese, and it caught you in a trance. But you mentioned this at the outset, so. The whole appellation system came into being with Roquefort, 1925. Yep. Therefore, they've got this saucy little blue cheese called 1924. What are they saying with that?
So this is a recent cheese, and what they're doing, it's sort of inside baseball for cheesemakers. But what they were setting out to do, people are always trying to make new cheeses because people do, and they're trying to make new wines, and so you have the wines that people know and love and that have a history and a tradition, and then you have these new ones that come along. And in the case of 1924, it's a relatively new cheese, less than 10 years. They set out to try to make a cheese that was the love child of Stilton and Roquefort. So Roquefort is made with sheep's milk and Stilton is made with cow's milk. So they did a blend of a cheese. And the reason they called it 1924 is because it is the same shape as a Roquefort. So it's a wheel about yay big. And and it has the same sort of bluing in the paste and the same moist paste, but it has cow's milk in it. And to be a Roquefort, it has to be oldie sheep's milk. Okay. But what these guys were saying was, actually, back in 1925, some people did make Roqueforts with cow's milk and sheep's milk, but now you can't. So that's the point of the 1924. So the 1924 just happened to be that cheese that sort of knocked me off for the very first time, knocked me off my chair. Basically, when I tasted it, it was so delicious, so transcendent. It was, so many things were happening with it at the same time, and it was ticking every single box because it had the creaminess. It also had the butteriness because it's a mix of sheep and cow's milk. Sheep has a bit more fat in it. It has this line of sweetness in it that Roquefort Roquefort can have sweetness too, and it tends to be a bit fruity. But this has a sort of sweetness that I associate with Oreo cookies. Yeah, exactly. Plus all the funkiness, plus the blue flavors, and all of that together was just
wow. I've got to find that cheese. That's like what you call a narcotic cheese, right?
Narcotic grade cheese. I mean, the problem is that not every wheel is going to taste like that. So it just happened that when I began working, there was a batch that was blow your mind. It had weird sort of yellow mold on it too, which I always associate with being like almost like a highlighter pen, which has a name and I've forgotten it because I've only been in the business for a few years, but other like super serious cheese people will know exactly what it is. And yeah, somehow it tasted just that good that I couldn't stop eating it, and I had low self-control at that point in my career, and so I was like, I basically pretty much had 1924 smeared on my face as I was
that's great
serving people.
Well, you call those cheeses narcotic. I call certain wines that are so good intervention wines, meaning I need an intervention to stop. I need a whole family meeting. Why we've brought you here is you're drinking too much of that rosé. But
I'm going to steal that word. I love that word. I'm taking it.
Please, it's yours. But you referred to one customer as maybe Gwendolyn Christie. She was the actress who played Brienne of Tarth in Game of Thrones TV series. You weren't sure though if it was her, but she liked that 1924 cheese, right? You said she ordered impossibly large pieces of it.
Yeah, so she would come up to the stall, a big, imposing English woman with a shock of blonde hair. I mean, I just sometimes get nervous about asking people, who are you? And she came up to the stall and said, I'm looking for a cheese. I can't remember the name of it, but it's a year, it's 4 digits, 1924. That's it. And I said, okay, well, we have someone here. I'll take a slice. I'll take a slab. An impossibly large slab. Yeah. So she really was super keen on it. And I said, would you like to taste it? And she said, I mean, I want to eat it. I don't feel I need to taste it. But I said to her, look, you should taste it. And I will say to everyone listening, even if you have had it in the past, even if you love it, even if it like blew your socks off,
yes.
If you can taste it.
Taste it.
I
can see now with all the variables that it might not be the same thing.
Not and you could end up with a great surprise, but you could also be disappointed. And if you've tasted it, you're not going to be disappointed. You'll know it's going to taste like that. You'll taste it and you'll say, oh, well, this is not the same as I remember it. And do you know what? It's not the same as you remember it because it's not the same cheese. It's a different wheel. It was made at a different time of year. It was probably milk from a different animal. It might have been made by a different cheesemaker. It might have been made at a different site. So many things.
Right. What is the strangest question that a customer has ever asked you?
I think the strangest thing that I have ever seen I've seen a lot of strange things, by the way, Natalie. You see, I mean, anyone working with the public sees a lot of strange things. And we have a lot of tourism, so you get a lot of strangeness. But I think the strangest thing was a woman who came up once to the stall and tasted through just loads of cheeses. And she said, I'm looking for a round cheese. And I thought at first it was because she was looking for a specific cheese that she remembered was round, but she just, I think, didn't like the triangles. She didn't like the look of them. She didn't like the pyramids. She didn't like the square ones. She didn't like the big wedges of Alpine cheeses. She just wanted a little round cheese.
Okay.
I think she wanted a circle. That's, that's
Oh,
it's fine.
oblige. Yeah,
I was super happy. We found it. She was so happy.
there you go. And that's what was important in the end.
Yeah.
Michael, there were so many cheeses I wanted to ask you about, as you like, just different types. Your book has so many, from gateway cheeses to the history of mistresses and kings and queens. We're not going to get to them all, so people definitely have to get your book, The Cheese Cure, because they will have endless dinner party details and stories to share and impress, but just to the joy of learning about cheese for themselves and following your journey. So much as I hesitate, I'm going to wrap it up, but is there anything we haven't covered that you would like to mention before we do?
I suppose this is a bit of advocacy, but yeah, I would say that one of the things that is important for those of us here in Canada, the same is true of the UK, is raw milk cheeses are fantastic. Raw milk cheeses, which are made from milk that's not pasteurized. So there's an elevated risk factor working with unpasteurized milk, but it's different drinking the liquid unpasteurized milk and making cheese with it. And currently there are import restrictions here. In the United States, it's even harder to get unpasteurized cheeses. They're so good. And they are, when they're done right, they are absolutely safe to eat, and there are more interesting things happening with them. So I would say, if you're a foodie and you have the power to sort of say things to politicians, let's try and loosen up a bit on the restrictions on raw milk cheeses. Try them when you go to France. And they, by the way, we can sell raw milk cheeses here, and there are a number of them here in Canada. Give them a try. See what you think.
I will. Yes. Good advice. That's great. Michael, where can we find you and your book online?
So it's pretty easy to find. The Cheese Cure, you will find it at all the big online retailers. You can order it from the big Canadian and American bookshops. It has the UK edition. There's an audiobook which you have to get from Audible in the UK or another source in the UK. And there's going to be paperback editions that are going to be coming out in May in the UK and in September in North America.
Terrific. Well, congratulations on this book. It's just a marvelous, marvelous read
Thank
for
you.
so many reasons. But next time we'll have to bring our pipette and our carrot and our have a little toast and burn some non-champagne and
We
eat
need
lots
to
of
have a
cheese.
wine and cheese party. Absolutely.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be fun?
Absolutely, it would be.
This has been a
Thank
delight,
you
Michael.
for
Thank
inviting
you.
me. It's been a real pleasure chatting, and lovely to speak to everyone out there who are your regular podcast listeners and viewers. Eat some cheese.
Yes.
Taste the cheese.
Taste the cheese.
See what you like, and push your boundaries.
Absolutely. Cheers to that. All right. Thanks, Michael. I'll say goodbye,
Thanks,
but don't hang
Natalie.
up just yet.
You got it.
Okay. All right. That was fantastic.